Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where Karens seem to think the world revolves around them and nobody else matters. And in today's episode, it's all about Karens being horrible parents. That's right, these people reproduce. We've got Karens treating places as free daycare, attacking police, suing grocery stores. It's about to get wild. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. This happened a few years ago at a local big chain hardware store. My store in particular had a small playground and a cafe inside of it. The parents will get a coffee and they'll sit around while their kids play. Now, I wasn't directly involved in the action, just a keen observer. I came into the scene after getting my coffee and sitting down. My two kids had entered the playground, which is contained behind pool fencing and child-proof. At the fence were two little kids, a boy about 4 and a girl who's 7, Karen's kids. The little boy was crying and the girl was calling for mom, who was nowhere to be seen, clearly having dumped her kids in the playground to go about her business in the store. So after about 5 minutes of the girl screaming mom, a kind old lady approaches the kids and asked if they were okay. That's when Karen's daughter said, "My brother needs to go to the bathroom really bad. He's gonna pee himself." The kind old lady then took it upon herself to let Karen's son out to go to the bathroom nearby. She then waited for him and let him back into the playground. As he was being let into the playground, Karen waddles into the scene, and in a huff, she speaks rudely to her own kids. The woman says, "What's going on? I told you to stay in here." The woman's giving poisonous stares to everyone around. The kids just settle down, and off she went again, despite some audible comments from other parents. By now, the 6 to 10 adults who witnessed this were glancing at one another, shaking their heads, and wondering at the audacity of some people. There was peace for about 60 more seconds. That's when Karen's boy returns to the fence and he starts crying again. The parents all start looking around to see if Karen can be seen. And that's when enters the savage dad of the story. The savage dad then says something to his teenage son, probably to keep an eye on his little one in the playground. The guy then gets up from his coffee and he walks to a spot nearby, where you can see down the entire center aisle of the store. He spots Karen halfway across the store, and the following dialogue ensues. And I will bold, not because the guy was yelling, but because his voice was really commanding, and his forcefulness was unmistakable. The guy shouts, "Hey," while raising his finger and pointing to Karen, who's about 20 meters away. He then screams, "You! Come here right now." At that, Karen marches over with attitude and she says, "What's the problem now? What's going on?" Directing her question more towards her kids. The dad says, "You are the problem. This is not a daycare center, lady. Kids are not to be left unattended, so sit down and watch them or leave." Karen replies, "This has nothing to do with you. They're okay. I leave them here all the time." The woman was feisty and she was looking at him with contempt. The dad then says, "They are clearly not okay. Your son's been crying. If you're not prepared to watch them, don't leave them here. They're gonna remember the way you treat them, and so far, you're not doing well." And then he got serious. It was beautiful to watch. He then said, with a hard edge to his voice and a finger pointing at her, "And don't you dare pull that face with me. Wipe that smug look off your face this instant." And Karen actually deflated like a punctured tire. She immediately grabs her kids and left. The witnesses all start giving the dad praise, and he grins as he walks back to his coffee. He just said, "Someone had to do something. She'll never learn." His persona then changed instantly to casual and stress-free. The guy must have been an army officer or some position of authority, because the way he toggled the savage switch on and off so easily was impressive. Guys, thank goodness that savage dad was there. And he's right, somebody had to do something and Karen had to hear it. Like, I just don't understand why some parents think it's okay to just abandon their children in a public place like that. Like, do they not care? Like, as a parent, one of the worst fears is your kids getting kidnapped and never to be seen again, right? And the fact that Karen was so carefree about leaving her 7 and 4-year-old alone like that is actually quite worrying. And it's not just kidnapping. Like, what if there was a store emergency or something where everybody had to evacuate? Her kids would be freaking traumatized. Some people really do take the saying, "It takes a village to raise a child" 2 literally. And the thing is, this does happen a lot. This person says, I worked at a restaurant years back, and this one woman one day brings in her 11-year-old son and orders food for him. She then tells the waitress that he'll be sitting here eating, and when the food comes, to please watch him, and she'll be back in 45 minutes, which is weird, right? Well, keep reading. The boy was on his tablet during this time, but it's been over 45 minutes. That's when an hour passed and nothing. 2 hours passed, still nothing. That's when my manager got really worried and he called the police. The police end up coming, and by this point, 3 hours had passed. Not long after the police were there, the sorry excuse of a mother came back. It turns out she was at a spa salon. And guess what? The woman didn't seem to care about the issue. She didn't seem to realize how wrong and problematic she was for letting her son be in a restaurant for 3 hours. I think she got arrested for it. Poor kid, at least he had food and entertainment. And this person shares their story and says, so this happened about 20-ish years ago. When I was in high school, I got a job bussing tables and washing dishes at the local Denny's restaurant. The place was kind of shaped like an L, 2 separate sections of the restaurant. The lunch rush had died down, and we closed off the empty side, and I got started wiping off tables, collecting plates, etc. when I noticed one of the booths had a baby carrier in it. Now, I figured that somebody just forgot it and carried their kid, because it does happen, no big deal. But I was wrong. I picked up the carrier to take it to the hostess station, and that's when it started moving. Inside was a baby who was probably like 2 to 3 months old. Now, I thought the situation was kind of funny, being a 16-year-old at the time. But my manager didn't, and he called the police after checking the bathrooms to see if the mom had just stepped away. And the thing is, we kind of assumed the mom would realize the mistake quickly, and she would come back right away. But no. I don't remember how long it took, but she managed to get all the way home and unload her kids before realizing that she forgot one. The woman had 2 others. It was long enough for the cop to show up and take our statements. And now on to the real show. We gave our statements and the baby was in the carrier, sitting at the hostess station. And that's when Karen flings the door open like she had something to prove. The woman then screams, "Did you a-holes seriously call the cops? I didn't even leave the parking lot. I was gone for like 1 minute." The police officer says, "Ma'am, you need to calm down. We need to have a talk and I need to take your statement." The woman says, "I'm not saying anything to you. I'm taking my child and leaving, and you aren't doing a damn thing about this." At this point, the cop's in between Karen and the baby. The police officer says, "Ma'am, I can't let you take the child until I get a statement, and you can prove you are the child's parent." The woman does calm down a bit, and the manager shows the security footage of the lady eating with the kids, so it was all squared away. Or was it? The police officer then says, "Okay, ma'am, so I'm gonna let you off with a warning. But as a mother of 3, you need to be a lot more careful." And that's when Karen loses it. She says, "You have no right to talk to me that way. You have no idea what it's like being a mother." The cop, being female, then told Karen that she's also a mom of 3. And hearing that, Karen throws a tantrum. The woman was going on a tangent, pointing her finger at the cop's face and flailing her arms. As she was stepping closer to the cop, who was still between her and the baby, one of her hands went rogue, and she managed to hit the cop on the bridge of the nose. And that's when the cop immediately lost her lid, and she grabs Karen by the wrist and took her down to the ground. What ensued was a lot of hair pulling, wrestling, and "I'll sue you" screaming, until the cop managed to pin her to the ground, get the cuffs on her, and then escort her out to the cop car, and backup arrived. Karen ends up getting taken away, and I'm not sure what ends up happening, but I do know that while this was going on, which was about 20 minutes, the mom had left her 2 other kids in the car, alone, with the car running. My goodness, guys, even getting let off with a warning, some Karens still mess it up. And honestly, I do get it, right? Like, some parents get super exhausted from being sleep deprived, and if you're around 2 other children in a restaurant, you might forget to leave with your third. I get it. It does happen more than you think. But the fact that she got violent with the cop and then tried to fight the officer, inexcusable, right? Like, the correct way of going about things would have been, "Thank you, officer. Thank you, restaurant staff, for keeping my 2-month-old safe. I'll just be leaving now." But hey, I guess some people like to go wild. Who knows? So I work as a receptionist in an office, and our office's lobby has a wall of shelves filled with pamphlets. These shelves go from floor level up to about 6 feet, and they're held up with little bookshelf brackets, and they're only designed for light materials. As this story will demonstrate, they're poorly designed, but our office services adults, not children. With that said, every couple of days, a negligent parent will let their child attempt to climb the shelves, knocking them off and sending pamphlets flying everywhere. Usually before that happens, me or one of my colleagues rushes over and will ask the parent and child to stop. And a lot of the times, this does go great, until yesterday. Karen brings in her bratty son, and the screaming child is starting to climb the shelves. That's when a coworker rushes over and does her usual friendly spiel about the shelves being light, not safe for climbing, blah blah blah. And they tell Karen to tell him to please not do it again. At that, Karen half yells at my coworker saying, "Mind your business, I'm watching him." My coworker tells her, "Okay, I just want to make sure he doesn't get hurt as these shelves are not secure." Again, why should they be? As our office is in a professional environment and we only service adults. At this point, the kid does stop for a minute, still screaming but not climbing. The mom then comes up to me at the reception desk to ask a question, leaving the kid by the shelves. Of course, the kid starts climbing again. That's when I say to the kid, "Oh, little buddy, you need to stay off those shelves." Karen then says, "Excuse me? My kid is fine. He's not breaking anything." Cue the exact moment the kid pulls down 2 shelves and he falls flat on his face. Now the kid's screaming and crying, and this prompts my supervisor to come out of the cubicle behind us. My supervisor says, "Oh dear, what's happened here?" asking me and the coworker. That's when Karen says, "My son was trying to reach something and those shelves fell on him." The super then asked, "Was he climbing on them?" Again, directing the question to my coworker and I. My coworker and I start to answer, and that's when Karen cuts us off. She still hasn't gone over to her child. She screams, "No, those shelves just fell." My supervisor says, "I heard her mention climbing from my desk. Is your child okay?" Karen says, "No, he's obviously not. He's crying because you hurt him." And this is when the security guard steps in. The guy came in the moment the kid fell down. Security says, "Miss, can we offer some first aid and have you fill a report?" Karen says, "My report is your shelves fell and hurt my child. What are you going to do about it?" Security says, "Actually, I was watching and he climbed the shelves after they told him to stop. You also left him unsupervised." Karen says, "Well then why didn't you stop him? It's your job, isn't it?" Security tells her, "Our job is to protect the offices, not to supervise kids. Now, does your child need first aid? And can you give us information for a security report?" That's when Karen starts calling the guard racist terms and refuses to give any information. She then says that she's gonna call the news and sue the company. At this point, our supervisor steps in between the lady and the guard. Supervisor then says, "Ma'am, I'm giving you the choice to either leave the offices by choice or I will remove you with security assistance." Karen then screams and says, "Who the F are you?" Supervisor says, "I'm the one giving you the choice." And at that, Karen was totally speechless. She then grabs her screaming kid and throws him into a stroller, like painfully, and then stormed out while screaming back at us the whole time that we'll be hearing from her lawyers. As she was leaving, 2 more guards were on her tail, making sure she left and didn't come back in. We all filled out security reports for the next hour. Security also tagged the appropriate CCTV video footage and added it to our report. Guys, absolutely savage mic drop response by the supervisor. "Lady, I'm the one giving you that choice." But with that said, how freaking entitled is that, right? Like, I'll sue your company for my son's inability to listen to the person stopping him from dying. Like, some parents are freaking delusional. My son was standing there and the shelves fell on him. Like, come on, Karen. And guys, the next post is similar to this one, but the outcome is way more extreme. So I never thought I'd be posting here, but this recently happened. I work at the supermarket, bagging items, stocking merchandise, etc. I'm still shaken up, and I decided that this would be a good place to put my experience. This day was pretty rainy, so there was barely people in the store. I was fixing any products that were out of order. I was just chilling there since there was barely anything to do. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see a parent and her kid come strolling in the store. And I don't pay mind to the woman because, she's another customer. I'm already kind of wary of this woman. She looks angry, so I try to mind my own business and do my job. And that's when she sees me. She walks right up to me and she asks me rudely, without a please or anything, where the drinks are. So I tell her which aisle, and that's when she loudly huffs and says, "You're only doing half your job by telling me. You need to take me there. That's what you get paid for." I only nod and don't say anything. I take her to where the drinks are, and of course, the woman doesn't say thank you or anything. She only scoffs, and she basically shoos me away. So I get back to doing my job, just stocking the shelves. When not too far away, I can see her kid start climbing the ledge where the drinks are. Like the kid literally begins climbing the store shelves. That's when I say, "Excuse me, we just mopped the floor so it's slippery. And plus, your son can't be climbing those shelves. That's not safe at all. He can fall or get really hurt." At that, Karen gives me a nasty glare and she snaps, "Don't you tell me how to raise my child. Mind your own damn business." Meanwhile, her kid's still climbing the ledge part where the alcohol is, and I'm just getting more anxious just watching the kid. So while the mom's busy, I go to him and say, "Hey, can you please get off? You can get hurt." That's when the kid starts screaming for his mom and she comes running like a mad bull. She then asked if he's okay and if I hurt him. He then tells her, "Mom, she's not letting me play." At this point, she's fuming and she threatens to call the manager. She then starts yelling at me, saying I need to do my job and to leave her and her kid alone. She also threatens me that she knows the manager and she will get me fired. She then tells me to get out of her face, and she continues shopping for wine, while her kid's climbing the ledge. And that's when I get a bad feeling. I see the kid lean back while holding the ledge, and the shelves start to shake. And this is where I run and tackle the kid, basically pushing him out of the way right at the moment the whole aisle of drinks falls on the ground. There's basically red everywhere since it was part of the wine aisle, and I can see myself badly cut. The kid's crying, probably because I pushed him, and that's when the mom comes running and she starts shrieking saying, "This stupid worker pushed my son. She tried to kill him." I just told her that I saved her son's life since he could have been crushed by the falling shelves or hurt badly by the glass. Karen just grabs my arm, digging her nails into it, saying, "You're not going anywhere. I'm pressing charges and calling the police. Pushing somebody is assault, and you attacked a minor." At this point, the manager comes running, obviously, and the woman calls the police. I explain everything to him. He tells me that he has everything on camera, and I almost cry in relief. The mom seems to go a little pale, but she's still insistent on pressing charges at me and the store, demanding that I be arrested for assaulting her kid. So we wait for the police to arrive. The police then review everything, and they even have witnesses who saw and heard everything. The manager and the police said I did the right thing, and the police said that I can press charges because the mom actually put her hands on me in an aggressive manner. The woman is still fuming, and now she's threatening and swearing at the police, so she's taken away and arrested. The kid's picked up by who I presume is his dad. I just can't imagine what would have happened if the kid was still there climbing and I didn't push him out of the way. Also, I'm pressing charges, and the manager's pressing charges too, because she caused $5,000 in damages by breaking a lot of expensive alcohol. Guys, imagine that, saving someone's kid from getting hurt by pushing them out of the way, only to have the parents turn around and press charges on you for assault. And thank goodness that backfired though. So in New Jersey, there's a place called Funplex. The place consists of an indoor amusement park, an arcade gaming corner, and laser tag, along with other games. This also happened years and years ago. My family often came here for family time. On this day, I was doing some laser tag with my brothers, when enters the entitled parent. Her son, who was quite young, wanted to play laser tag, despite the employee informing her that there was a minimum age. Eventually, after arguing, they make an exception to let him in as long as his mom goes with him, which was a big mistake. We were beginning to start the round. In this laser tag, you have different styled weapons. I decided to choose my favorite gun, and that's when Karen's son saw the laser gun I chose. And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. The kid screams, "Mommy, I want to have that gun." Karen says, "Don't you worry, sweetheart, you'll get it." She then turns to me and says, "Can my son use that gun?" I just tell her, "There's similar guns right over there," pointing at the armory. Karen just tells me, "Well, my sweetie likes your gun. Can he have it? He's young, so go choose another gun." I just tell Karen, "I'm sorry, please go choose the guns over there because I'm not gonna give you mine." The Karen then grunts and she brings her son to the armory. She then proceeds to whisper in her son's ear. The round then began, and the unfortunate news is that the son's on my team. We all know this isn't gonna end well. The round began as usual, and everything was going fine, until the kid began to physically push me around. On top of that, before I could even shoot, the kid would smack at me and pull at my gun. My brother and other opponents witnessed this, and they weren't amused. I, of course, had enough, so I screamed at him to stop. And that's when the kid starts crying like a bawling baby, and he ran to his mom. I then heard somebody call me over, and it was, of course, the Karen. She screams at me and says, "You effing piece of crap, you just hurt my precious baby." And this is when she slaps me across the face. An employee who was manning the laser tag comes running over, and she screams, "This idiot hurt my son, I want him banned." The employee tells her, "Ma'am, we actually saw everything that happened. We saw you smack him, and your son kept harassing him and nearly pushed him off the second floor of the laser tag arena." The Karen says, "I didn't do anything. He pushed you, right?" Her son then nods, and the employee said, "Ma'am, we saw the whole thing, and many people who were playing saw it." Karen then proceeds to scream that her son did no such thing, and she wants me to be kicked out of the park. And this is when the employee comes with a comeback. He says, "Hey, aren't you the woman who caused trouble in the park a few months ago? You smacked another player and now you smacked him? I suggest you leave the park, ma'am, or I'll call the police." Karen, of course, begins to protest, and she still tries to put the blame on me. The employee then takes out his pager and begins talking to it, and she attempted to shove him. The police end up getting called. Of course, Karen continues denying everything, while the employees talk to the police officer. I don't know what ended up happening, but the police did escort her out. Luckily for me, I never had to see her again. And my brothers still bring this incident up today, whenever we go to Funplex. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our slash entitled people, where Karens would rather attack minors and go to jail than to walk away. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode, where OP's boss harasses her thinking she's a nobody when she basically runs the place. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.